Good afternoon. It's Sunday, the 30th of August. I'm Erin Viner, and this is IBA News broadcasting from Jerusalem. We open with a drive-by shooting near the settlement of Shavei Shomron a short time ago that lightly injured a 46-year-old Israeli civilian when his car came under fire from a passing Palestinian vehicle that sped away. The victim successfully drove himself to a nearby army base where he received emergency medical care for wounds on his hands and his arms before being transferred to the Meir Medical Center in Kfar Saba for further treatment. A manhunt is underway for the assailants, as well as those responsible for the suspected vehicular attack elsewhere in the West Bank overnight that lightly injured an IDF soldier when a car driven by a Palestinian slammed into his military patrol on the side of a road south of Hebron. Troops opened fire, damaging the vehicle, although the suspected terrorist still managed to drive away. Amid threats to shut down this network by the end of September, the Histadrut Labor Federation today closed the Ben Gurion International Airport as well as the nation's border crossings for several hours in protest, while a Knesset committee met to discuss a critical reform bill to close the Israel Broadcasting Authority, including this program, and fire all 1,500 employees. We get more of the day's events from IBA's Aryeh O'Sullivan.
At this hour, a Knesset special committee is meeting to finalize the bill for public broadcasting that will replace the IBA with a new radio and television station. But the threat of a layoff of 500 IBA workers at the end of next month has been delayed. This is after the government backed down in the face of expanded work sanctions by the Histadrut Labor Federation. Today, IBA employees were supported by the Israel Airport Workers Union, which called a solidarity strike at Ben Gurion. Although phased back by the National Labor Court, the strike went on, causing congestion for hours this morning, a day when over 70,000 passengers were expected to pass through. In addition, the border crossings at the Ashdod and Haifa ports, as well as the Allenby Bridge, were also shut in solidarity from 9 to noon. Last night, IBA employees and their families demonstrated outside the entrance to the television studios in Jerusalem. And this morning, hundreds of workers marched from the station to the Knesset to demonstrate against the plans to fire more than 1,500 employees. They were joined by Communist MK Dov Khanin of the Joint List. Do you think the country's behind IBA?
Well, I hope so. They should be, because if not, it's going to come to them too. That's what's going to happen. If they're not going to be behind us, it's going to come to everyone. This Knesset is sending people home with their laws. That's what's going to happen.
It's a dramatic day for the Israel Broadcasting Authority. The Knesset is making the final preparations of the draft law that could see over 1,500 workers fired. Hundreds of workers have joined now the protests, have demonstrated down the streets of Jerusalem, blocking traffic, and hope to be able to influence the decision that's made today.
It's not an easy situation to be in. I've been working in the IBA now for 20 years, been supporting my family, and to suddenly be faced with the possibility of being thrown out to look for a new job, it's not something you look forward to, no. It's a difficult situation.
Inside the Knesset, there was a heated debate in the special committee headed by Tzachi Negbi over the final preparations for the bill. The labor pressure appeared to work, since one clause calling for the immediate cut of 10 million shekels to the October budget of the Broadcasting Authority, which would have meant the immediate dismissal of 500 workers, was scrapped. It was also agreed that talks would continue over exactly how many of the workers in the IBA would be employees of the new Israeli Broadcasting Corporation. Still, there are many issues blocking the reforms left to solve, particularly the formation of a board that will oversee the new public broadcasting, which at this moment is under the control of the Communications Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. Aryeh O'Sullivan for IBA News.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has announced that his government is not opposed to Iranian nuclear development that is civilian in nature. He made the remarks during his visit to Florence, where he also held talks with Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi. Here with more is IBA's diplomatic correspondent, Eli Wogelenter.
In what appears to be a rebuttal to U.S. President Barack Obama, Prime Minister Netanyahu said that Israel is opposed to a militarized nuclear program in Iran, not a civilian one. Speaking at the end of his three-day trip to Italy, which included a visit to the Israel Pavilion at the Expo in Milan, Netanyahu reiterated that the nuclear deal enables Iran to preserve and even to expand its vast nuclear infrastructure, which is completely unnecessary for a civilian nuclear program. Netanyahu's comments came a day after U.S. President Barack Obama, in a live online address to the U.S. Jewish community, charged that those opposed to the Iran deal were against the Islamic Republic having any sort of nuclear program, quote, even a peaceful one. Netanyahu and Renzi met in Florence last night to discuss how Israel and Italy can further expand cooperation in technology, agriculture, culture, and science. Ahead of their meeting, Netanyahu discussed the threat posed by Iran.
Florence is clearly one of the world's most magnificent cities. It has left an indelible mark on our common civilization. And that civilization today is under threat from militant Islam. The savagery of the Islamic State of ISIS captures the world's attention, and justifiably so. But I believe that a far more serious threat is posed by another Islamic state, the Islamic State of Iran, and specifically its pursuit of nuclear weapons. Let me make clear, Matteo, that Israel doesn't oppose a civilian nuclear program in Iran. We oppose a military nuclear program in Iran. And regrettably, the deal with Iran allows it to keep an expanded and a formidable nuclear infrastructure that is completely unnecessary for civilian nuclear purposes, but is entirely necessary for the production of nuclear weapons. This deal will give Iran, within 13 years, the ability to make as many centrifuges as they want, enrich as much uranium as they want, to whatever level that they want. And this will put the Iranian Islamic State that practices terrorism worldwide, it will put it on the threshold of an entire nuclear arsenal. And well before that, Iran will get hundreds of billions of dollars of sanctions relief and investments to fuel its aggression and terrorism in the Middle East, in North Africa, and beyond that. I think that this will make Iran far richer and far stronger militarily, and it will make it far more difficult to confront its nuclear ambitions in the future.
Meanwhile, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani is voicing opposition to having his own parliament vote on the nuclear agreement to avoid establishing legal obligations if it is passed by lawmakers. While speaking at a news conference in Tehran, Rouhani described the accord as a political understanding reached with the world powers that doesn't require government approval, adding that the Islamic Republic will implement the terms voluntarily, so the placement of unnecessary legal restrictions on the Iranian people are unnecessary. He went on to insist that any such vote would only benefit the United States and its allies and not Iran. A special parliamentary committee has already begun to review the deal ahead of an expected vote, but the futility of that exercise is in doubt because the government hasn't even prepared a bill to be submitted for approval. Rouhani said that the country's highest security decision-making body, the Supreme National Security Council, that works independently from the parliament, has almost finished its own assessment of the agreement. Public Security Minister Gilad Erdan met with retired IDF Major General Doron Almog this morning to hear his views about the disputed appointment of former IDF General Gal Hirsch as the nation's next Commissioner of Police. Almog was commissioned by the state to publish a report after the Second Lebanon War in which he recommended that Hirsch should no longer hold command positions in the IDF. Almog found Hirsch, who was then the commander of the Galilee Division, responsible for the cross-border abductions of IDF reservists Eldad Regev and Ehud Goldwasser, which sparked the war with Hezbollah in the summer of 2006. Also attending today's meeting was retired Major General Yoram Yair, who headed the committee that investigated the conduct of the Galilee Division during the war. 2 days ago, Erdan also held talks with the bereaved parents of fallen soldiers who are opposed to his selection of Hirsch as police chief. The minister vowed to consider their claims while reassessing the appointment. In related news, Attorney General Yuda Weinstein is set to examine new information provided to him by police regarding 2 cases of alleged financial misconduct by a security company owned by Gal Hirsch in business dealings with Kazakhstan and Georgia. The Attorney General is also slated to discuss the material with senior police officials. The Turkel Committee, charged with evaluating the appointments of senior civil servants, will convene to review the matter on Tuesday. So far, the forum has already agreed to hear testimony from one of the bereaved families opposed to the controversial selection. Hirsch's attorney is vehemently denying the accusations, insisting that his client is innocent of any wrongdoing. Meanwhile, many of the police commissioner-elect's confidants and colleagues are rallying around him and speaking out to the media on his behalf, including claims that internal police sources are trying to thwart his selection because he is an outsider. Well, there's just 2 days left until the start of the school year, and the Ministry of Education has announced plans to increase the number of students who will be able to qualify for the advanced 5-unit matriculation exam in mathematics. Education Minister Naftali Bennett laid out his program at a press conference this morning to provide additional scholastic hours for the subject to be taught at the nation's high schools. He also said that 500 people from the high-tech industry will be recruited to assist school staff in teaching the curricula. The main goal, said Bennett, is to double the number of students eligible to take the high-level matriculation exam to 18,000 students over the next 4 years. A legal precedent was established less than a week ago when members of the Khalul family were registered as Christian Arameans in what was the first time that such recognition has been granted here in the country for members of the community. The chairman of the Israeli Christian Aramaic Association, Shadi Khalul, now joins me here in the studio. Thank you for coming in this afternoon.
Thank you for inviting us.
Tell me and explain to all of our viewers why this achievement was so significant for your community.
Well, Irene, as you know, we were registered until now since the establishment of our country, Israel, as Arabs. And it was a mistake because since the Christians in the Middle East in general, this is a descendants of the Syriac Aramaic population who inhabited this region at the time of Muslim conquest in the 7th century. And after their Arab invasion, they were forced into Arabization. And here in Israel today, we had made just, the country made just with this population, and this Christian population today are allowed to be registered as they originally were, Aramaic and not as Arabs. That was forced on them for 1,400 years. This is a great historical achievement for our ICCA, the organization, and for our people, and for the State of Israel, the only democratic state in the region.
Now, you're also behind the movement that encourages Christians to enlist in the IDF. You yourself are a reserve captain in the IDF. Tell me about what motivates you in this mission.
Well, first of all, we believe that Israel is a just country, it's a democratic state, and it allows everyone here to live peacefully and in security. And if the country is so, we need also to defend our state that is protecting us as a Christian community and defend ourselves at the same time from extremism, Islamic extremists around the country and outside the country. So we believe in our organization that the melting point of this country is the military. And the military giving you all the other opportunities and open for you different opportunities because you would be better understand, we would have better understanding of the other Jewish people, the majority of this country, and once you have this better understanding, you have better Hebrew, you will be able to communicate better and find better jobs and better education, and it will open up all other opportunities for you.
Does the Christian Aramaean community here experience difficulties with the Arab sector because of your strong alliance with the State of Israel?
Well, yes, for sure. We face a lot of, I can't tell you, discrimination once you would be recognizing yourself obviously and clearly to anyone as Aramaean. They will look at you as differently if they will also follow you and puncture your cars. They would bully as well sometimes physical, physical, I don't call it like biting you, but they sometimes attack you in a physical way, or your car, or yourself, or your sister, or your brother. This is what's happening in the north in different Arab, we call it villages today, where our Christian Aramaic population lives together on these cities, our villages, together with mixed Arabic communities. But we expect that the country and Israel to protect all its citizens and give what it is called equal opportunities for everyone. And we are protected by law because we are Israeli citizens. Thanks God we are not in Syria, we are not in Iraq, we are not in Lebanon, and we can talk clearly, and we can go and report that issue to the police, and they will investigate the issue. So I would like to thank Prime Minister Netanyahu for this achievement, because he was involved in that achievement, and Mr. Gideon Saar, the former actually interior minister,
right,
that took the decision, and this is the first time the Aramaic population, the Christians, actually have the opportunity to be their own selves and not belonging to Arabs and fighting Israel. We don't want to fight Israel, we want to be together with Israel and defend this only democratic state in the Middle East.
Well, Shadi, congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you for being our guest this
Thank you
afternoon.
so much.
Thank you. In other regional news, Turkey announced that its fighter planes have carried out their first airstrikes as part of the U.S.-led coalition against the Islamic State in Syria. According to a statement from Ankara's foreign ministry, over the weekend the jets launched strikes at targets across the border in Syria, determined to pose threats to Turkey. After months of hesitance, the government of President Recep Tayyip Erdogan finally agreed in July to assume a more active role in the fight against ISIS positions, first by the firing of smart bombs without crossing into Syrian airspace, and then by granting American aircraft access to a key airbase close to the Syrian border. The Turkish attacks this past weekend came after officials from Ankara and Washington reached agreement on the procedures and the technical details of their cooperation, which calls for Turkey to be fully integrated into the coalition air campaign. Turning now to the crisis in Lebanon, where thousands took to the streets in downtown Beirut last night in what was the largest anti-government rally yet this summer. What began as a campaign by a grassroots group over the accumulation of uncollected garbage has now evolved into wider demonstrations by ordinary Lebanese who are fed up with a dysfunctional system of government that fails to provide even basic services, as well as the political class that has dominated the country since the end of the civil war in 1990. Demonstrators filled the area known as Martyrs Square, where they chanted calls for revolution and declared a 3-day ultimatum for officials to respond to their demands that include the resignation of a cabinet minister. In longer-term goals, they also called for the holding of fresh elections for parliament, as well as for the presidency, which has remained vacant now for more than a year due to political infighting. Well, here's something that really won't appeal to everyone. 6 people have agreed to lock themselves inside of a dome in Hawaii for a year in what is the longest American isolation experiment ever, aimed at helping NASA to prepare for a pioneering journey to Mars. The mixed-gender crew includes a French astrobiologist, a German physicist, and 4 Americans who are a pilot, an architect, a doctor journalist, and a soil scientist. The men and women each have their own small rooms with a cot and a desk within the total 30-square-meter dome, and they're going to enjoy meals of powdered cheese, canned tuna, and other delectable prepared foodstuffs. Before entering their living quarters for the next 365 days, the participants shared their feelings.
Miss my friends, my family. I'm a pilot and I'm going to miss flying as well. I'm going to be stuck on the ground with both feet in the dirt for a whole year.
Well, I think it's taken for granted that we'll all miss our friends and family, but just this, the wind in your face, the sun, that I'm going to miss a lot.
The main thing that's new about this mission is its sheer length. So you might imagine that as a group gets to know each other, that whole dynamic changes over time.
I really don't understand what the point of going to Hawaii is if you can't go to the beach. Now turning to finance, where share prices on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange are up across the board this afternoon, while the shekel rate remains the same since there's no currency trading on Sundays. Here's a look at the numbers. The IBA weather team says we're going to see a beautiful summer day tomorrow with mostly sunny skies and no significant change in temperatures. Here's the forecast to home and abroad over the next 24 hours. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. We hope you'll join us again tomorrow when Aryeh O'Sullivan will be here to bring you the latest breaking news from Israel. I'm Erin Viner, wishing you a great evening and shalom from Jerusalem.